Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Got lots of things to do today. Let's get to it. This is David Greg Taylor on this is Blue Boy Brown's Adventures of the Family and the development of the book. Blah 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 blah. And let's hop to it right now. Yesterday, working on page 113. I showed you a video of me drawing page 113 last night. Whoo! I finally got around to doing page 102. And I have a video of me doing page 102. There it is. And I'll show that a little later, but we're going to get to page 113 first because if I don't do that, I'll forget to do it. And well, anyway, I'm getting into the meat of this little production I'm doing. And I'm starting to enjoy it. So let's see. I steal colors from other pages, which is, I think, the best way to do it. And I'm going to change the color just a tiny bit here, just to lighten it. I'm only in idiosyncratic ways of doing things, and I'm going to enlarge that. Morning, guys. Got 2 viewers. I'm not the most popular person since the Spanish flu, so I appreciate everybody who drops by. So I'll get, except for around here, I'll be sloppy all over the place because I can correct things. But over here, I'm going to have problems with blending 2 color zones. I don't want to do that. So here I'll be careful the rest of the place. So I'll just correct things. Batman. Okay. Yeah, here's the old bucket. I like being a little bit lazy. Okay, and then I can do this right over here. Be real careful there at the edges. Yep. Then take the eraser tool and do a little bit of correction. Do. I'll stop that. I don't care about that. Out of here. I did my scan this morning after doing that last night. Did it real lickety pretty quick. Only took about 45 minutes to do the whole thing using my little tripod setup that I created so I wouldn't have to buy well, I move these things around. I was, when they're doing construction work on the roof, I'm not sticking around this room. I'm glad I didn't because when they did the construction, they replaced the roof over my head. You would have seen the dust and dirt that was all over the house. Well, all over this room. Took forever to clear it up. Boy, if I'd had my computer in here, thank God I placed rugs over all my printers. It was a mess. But everything worked out. Let me see. I'm going to reduce the size of that a little bit. And okay. Okay. A little bit of that. Just I want to establish a horizon line there, and then I'll. Oh, I did that in the color area. That was brilliant. Oh well. Boop 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 boop. Get rid of that. Oh, I didn't. I didn't do that. See, I'm so forgetful. Okay, gotta mess. I already did that. Yeah. Yeah. I'm thinking that I'm on page 102. Anyway. Okay. So I'll just go over all this. And that, then that. And this. And that. And that. And I must have. Huh, I see. Check this. Well, now what I'll do. Go like this and see if yeah, I do. Okay. Thought I had, but yeah, that little problem there. What's that? Oh, okay. Breathe deeply. Now, back to coloring some of this. And dee. So I put the shadows in. This will work a little bit better. This little area here will be a little bit complex. I don't know how I'll do it. I might do it one of those conventions of coloring where you just color the whole dang thing in one major color and then do variations in the value of that color so that you get some variation, but you don't go hog wild. And then make that area, which is supposed to be all in shadow, into a focal area, which is not what you want. You want it to be a subordinate area. Dee 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 dee. Uh-huh. Then over here, same dang thing. Then how I'm going to do this is I'm going to just go over this. Twice. Just go over it twice. I fixed those horse collars yesterday. I have to do the rest on the other horses. Won't be a big deal. Like I said, we left the farm a long time ago. Like so many other people who wanted to get ahead, left the farm, figured it out, and then my dad's goal always was to go back to the farm, go back to the farm. By the time he had the means to go back to the farm, at least on farming had become so expensive. It wasn't something, family farm had just disappeared. So that's life. Okay, now I'll go over this a second time. Change its color just a tiny bit. Well, not change its value. Not change its color at all, just its value. And you can't use the bucket for this because you just go back to the same color. It doesn't do that. You can't just keep on doing it and think you get a darker value. You just get whatever's in the paint bucket. So, yeah, do this if you want to get a deeper value. And you can't lift your stylus because if you do, you'll get overlapping brush strokes and that'll look dumb. Okay, we got that. Hoo 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 hoo. Hoo 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 hoo. And we'll just do this right here. I'm going to worry about that. And down here, I'm going to do that layer, and I'm going to put my clouds in. Because I don't believe I have any dialogue for this. I don't have any dialogue for this panel. Okay, a little more doo here. This could be something to play around with. Well, it's Friday. We made through another week. Okay, then I'll smudge you suckers just a tiny bit. I'll use a real tiny smudge brush this time. Okay. I got you guys. Probably should put a few little clouds up here so it doesn't look like clouds just erupted. We have had clouds the last several chapters of this. I've had these little pop-up clouds, and play around the edges of those, the brush strokes, la 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 la. Okay, so back up to color and do. Let me see. Huh. Okay. Boys. Okay. I thought I did this before. I guess it didn't. Okay. Boys' pants in the color section. Yeah, good. Big problem right here. Gee, what is this? 33. Oh, I refuse to have any black in there. Muddies up the color. Where's my little notebook? Okay. Do. 33, 39, 58. Okay. Put that over there. Back down here. Oh, no, what I'm doing here. Getting rid of that right there. Blue Boy is not wearing a jacket. Get to be my age, yeah, miss a lot of stuff, and then you just have to go back and correct yourself. Okay. So, okay. Now in color. Well, I did make a slight boo-boo there, or cool thing about comics is that it's all going to get reduced. What's the print view? Print size. That size. It really changes everything. So even though you're drawing kind of crudely, look at that real close up here. When you have the print size, doesn't make much of a difference. So back to color. Let me see. 33, 39, 58. Okay, now we got. Now we do boys, blue boys, pants if I'm not in the line. Okay, I'm in the color section. Okay. I lose my mind. Well, I mentioned that I got this little magazine I'm going to start producing called Taylor Fiction Zine. It'll start coming out probably beginning of next month. And I got a cool idea for a new series of stories that are perfect for this, since I'll never get around to doing this as a graphic novel. I don't have enough time. It's going to take another 10 years, and I don't want to wait 10 years to put this out. I have to do a little bit of research on this, but won't be too difficult. I already know some of the stuff already. But it's going to be a cool series of stories. I think it's going to be a series of stories. Dee-doo-doo-doo. Let me see. And then Paul's pants. Paul's wearing long pants because he's not so dadgum tall that he's and young that he's going to outstrip his clothing within a few months, which is what happens to old Blue Boy, which is why Ma ain't going to get him no long pants till he stops growing. Long pants you can wear a little while longer because, heck, they just go down to your knees or a little bit below your knees, and then if you grow real bad, then it just goes to your knees. Do. Remember growing up, especially during the old growth spurt, man, you'd be wearing pants to school that are halfway up your ankles because your parents did not count on you growing 6 inches over the summer. It happened to me in my junior year. I grew like 6 inches in like 3 or 4 months. Boom. I went from like 5'9" to 6'2" or something like that. My junior year. It's crazy. Where are you? There you are. So my junior and senior year, man, I looked like Jethro Bodine half the time. And the color, is that really the color of the, well, I guess we'll just have to make it like that. That's the color of the buckboard. Wonder if I colored it a different color in other places. That would be really disappointing. Anyway, there it is. There's the whole, oh, come on, stop it. Okay. Oh boy, somebody turned on the washing machine. That sounds like we're using centrifugal force to create uranium or plutonium. Now, wait a second. I had page 99 open. Still got 98. Well, there. Yeah, that was the color of it. I'm veering off into the weirdness. Okay. So let's get rid of all that. Thought it was a little grayer color and a little less of a brownish color. Okay. It's not a whole lot of difference, but try to be a little consistent. I got 2 thumbs up. Bang. It's a bang shang lang day. I better make this brush bigger. I'm going to be doing this forever. Okey-doke. Yeah, I think I'll get this done a little bit quicker by doing that. Okay, I got a little bit over here, a little smaller brush here. And I should deepen the value somewhere. There, yeah, can't be just all same value like a coloring book or something like that. Okay. Okay, do back down here, and then a large brush again. That's close to the color of his. Yeah. Do something about that. Yeah, what I'll do is I'll just go over this like this. Okay. And I think I got this. Anyway, this new magazine is going to come out in about 3 weeks. That'll probably take me that long to get this story written. I've got to figure out how I'm going to approach it. Has to be done with delicacy. Because it's a little bit of a science fiction story. Sort of a science fiction story, but it's not really a science fiction story. Bub. Okay, you. Catch these little things where you didn't catch them. They're at that. So you found the gap. Where's the gap? Gap. I don't see any other gaps. Okay. Yeah, there. That's where I saw it. Okay. Let me see. So, Fridays are always happy days. Got 4 days off, or I have to go back to teaching college. I enjoy teaching college because college teaching is cool because in a college setting, everybody behaves themselves. If they don't behave themselves, they misbehave by not coming to class. Well, okay, we have ways of dealing with that. It's called Fs. You just write them and say, hey, you just made an F. You just messed up your grade because I give grades. Very small percentage of my grades are attendance. And that's the way it is in any college class, is that you have to add attendance as a very tiny part of your grade because you're still dealing with adolescents who are going to play around and say, I don't have to come to school. I've been there, done that. And your main concern is their welfare. You want to make sure they get through college, they get a degree, they go on to live the kind of life they'd like to live. And it's a lot going on in college teaching. It's not just getting up there and lecture. You got all types of stuff going on. Dealing with, they're still kids, even though they're legally adults. If you do it right, you can do them a lot of good just by being a little bit tough with them. And all of a sudden, they've got a degree. And you were a small part of it. Small, real small, but still, hey, everybody do their part. I told the story yesterday about teaching it. I was a teaching assistant in art history my first semester at Pratt, and I flunked everybody the first test. And the teacher looked at me and says, "Are you out of your mind? These guys just came in from Korea, Taiwan, Thailand, Brazil. They've been learning English in classrooms. They've never experienced it as their primary mode of delivery, with no idea how it's used colloquially, how it's used spoken. You got to go back and you got to find some clues in every essay question about what they're trying to say, and that was a big, that was a really good lesson for me. Uh, People who struggle with English, and it's a really difficult language for people who speak like English as a second language. It has all types of rules that don't make a dang bit of sense. Oh, I just made a boo boo. I should have done that. Oh boy. Oh well. Oh well. I can do about it. Yeah, I did that entire layer, entire coloring on the line layer. Smart. Oh, I'm so smart. Anyway, I can fiddle with it. Okay. Anyway, you almost have to use divination sometimes when you're grading, because you have an international population in your classes, and that's one of the things you try to get them to be more comfortable with language and everything. But I'd never taught before, and I was from the Midwest. My first experience in an international setting. And hey, opened up my eyes. It was cool. It also was my first exposure to individualized instruction, which is the best teaching. Best teaching is you look at each kid as an individual. It's not a cookie cutter type of thing. And you make sure that each kid got it by individualizing the instruction, reaching out to kids and figuring out whether or not they got it. And there's different ways you can do it. You can actually just do it with the kind of assignments you do, and the feedback and back and forth. This is a great thing about email. You can do that with email. You can't do that pretty much with anything else. You can do you can do it with the feedback you put in a hard copy, but hard copies are a thing of the past. They're not coming back. No teacher my age is ever going to accept hard copies ever again. Sorry. Unless they get a real vaccine, I don't want to touch nothing you touched. I just don't. Sorry, I'm too old. I have a friend who got encephalitis from COVID-19. She couldn't remember anything. I don't need that. I have to be able to remember everything. Hey. And so, I'm rambling. So this story that's percolating in my head. I just came up with it yesterday. So I got to do some research, but it's going to be super cool, I think. It's not going to be a comic. I'd love it if it was a comic, but I don't have time to do it as a comic. And I'm not going to hire anybody to do it for me because they wouldn't do it the way I want it. It just doesn't happen. No way. Look what I just did. Well, I'll do it like this. Yeah, that'll fix it. Okay. Do this over here. Okay, now using the old this thing here. Okay, then bring it up here and do the same thing here. Just give it a little bit of a, get rid of that yellowish. And a little bit of here. Okay. And this tiniest bit here, don't have to do much. Same here. Leave the last panel to be the one that does it upright. These are just little suggestions. Okay, now we got horsies. I think it's, well, I'm going to tackle this guy. He's got to have probably a dark, I'm going to try a dark gray. Hat for this guy. Okay, I forgot to put a little bit of, okay, I'll do that now. Okay. Yeah, just put it in there like that. Okay. I'll get too wild with this. And I don't exactly want that to bleed over. And this right here, I'm just got to slightly blend it. Yeah. So it doesn't look too stupid. Okay. Mm. And this guy will have a slightly lighter hat. Hmm. Okay, what do I got here? What do I have here? Yeah, let me see. I'm about, what am I? I'm about 4 or 5 weeks ahead. This is about 4 or 5 weeks. I'm going to probably put this aside right now. Now, I need to work on this thing right here because this published on Monday. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show this application window, not that one, that one right now, and show this, and then I'll start coloring this. And so, yeah, I'm using my little tripod thing. You get to see my hairy belly. Gee, I should have worn a shirt. I'll do that next time. Anyway, yeah, that's a good thing. I should. Oh yes, Mr. Mauricio. My first sketch is digital. Nope, my first sketch is a little sketchbook. My first sketch is in a tiny little uh, um, leather-bound sketchbook that I got at Barnes and Noble and years ago for no particular reason. Then when I was doing the book, I picked this up and I said, "Well, I could do this in small. I like to draw small, and actually have that book. I think at the bottom of this. Yeah, it's right over here. Right over here. This little book that I'm manipulating. That's actually the book that I use to do all my little sketches that start the each page. Then I scan that book and then I blow it up on and in Photoshop or Preview sometimes, and stitch it together, and then create a um, an example that's big enough for me to trace onto bristleboard, and then I trace it onto bristleboard using good old carbon paper, the kind that you use actually for typewriters. who uses a typewriter anymore. I don't know even why they sell carbon paper. uh, but and then I go into this with a Bic mechanical pencil after I've done the tracing, and I pretty much render it and get it looking the way I want it to, using just the Bic pencil, and then I digitize it. Then I scan it on an Epson 11 by 17 inch scanner that I got at Office Depot for a song, like $180. Or heard of an 11 by 17 inch scanner. It's also a good printer uh, that I got at Home Depot. And then uh, I use my experience as a printmaker. In printmaking, when you're drawing with a needle through the ground, like you're doing hard ground etching, you have to make every line discrete. Even when you're using hatching, you can't be so um, you just can't be careless about it. You have to make every line have a space between other lines. How can you find your comic? Right there. See that rolling banner? That's blueboybrown.com. That's where my comic is right now. I'm going to do a Kickstarter in the near future and see if I can put out a print version of it. There's 9 books, so I've got a lot to do. This is just the first book. It's taken me 2 years to do it. So this is relearning how to do comics because I hadn't done comics in 40 years. I was an underground comics artist back in the 70s, and I did a lot of really forgettable stuff. And I worked for like 40 years on this one little story. Sometimes I didn't know I was working on that story, but I was. Let me see. It was what time was it? Oh, it was 8 o'clock when I was doing this last night, and so I came up with a lot of methods while getting my chops back, and so I think from now on the 9 book thing will probably take about a year to do each one because I know how to do it now, and so. But what I'm going to do probably is, unless I have a really successful Kickstarter launch campaign or blah, 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 I'm going to produce the comic in installments. And my first goal will be to put out like a 28-page comic. It's a 148-page book. And the more successful I am, the more pages I'll add. If I get super successful, I'll put the whole dang thing out at one time, but we'll just see whether or not that's possible. And I've been gone for 40 years. Nobody knows who the heck I am anymore. I was the first Dave Taylor, but that name's no longer available. There's a Dave Taylor in England, a really good Dave Taylor. Can't throw any, you can't say anything bad about that guy. He's really good. But he's a superhero artist, and I'm not a superhero artist. I'm still, in many respects, an underground cartoonist. The things I'm doing have absolutely nothing to do with, superheroes or mainstream comics or something like that. I was just not, when I was with the Everyman Studios group back in the 70s, even though I was weaned on Superman and Spider-Man and Batman and Daredevil and Fantastic Four and Mighty Thor and Green Lantern and Hawkman and all that other stuff. I just once I got into that kind of thing, and I just kind of it's. I don't think I have the chops for uh, superhero stuff. Those guys are like into super drama and just like this exploding worlds and stuff. No, that's not the thing. Especially as I've actually developed into, I hope, a writer. Those things don't resonate with me. And I don't work for corporations. I work for myself. That's one of the things that I think was keeping me back all those years. And the whole graphic novel, indie comics thing kind of passed me by because I was teaching college and high school. And I was just too busy to even notice it. And I got mentioned in Comics Journal back in the 80s. Said real nice things about me. And a friend walked up to me at a party in college and said, are you the Dave Taylor? I said, is there a the Dave Taylor? And he showed me this article in Comics Journal. I said, wow, oh, geez. Didn't make much of an impact on me because I just said, I'm not doing this anymore. My experience in comics back in the 70s was lackluster. There was all types of stuff, societal things against underground comics, which, what the heck? That's life. You see those two scars on my knees? Boy, I've been through the ringer. Anyway, so I just gave it up and I got into Rembrandt and etching and painting to some extent, but I was much more proficient always at printmaking, and that's really helped me in developing this. This is very much like um, drawing on a copper plate. Everything has to have a distinct boom line, which I kind of picked up when I was doing underground comics. That's one of the things that Dale Luciano said about me in Comics Journal. The work was fluid and precise and stuff like that. But I really got into it when I was doing printmaking. And this is just basic like doing hard ground etching without having to stick the copper into acid and then print it up, which printing is a lot of fun. That's why people hire people to print. It's like you do even a short edition, a small edition in intaglio printmaking. You get finished with it, you feel like you've gone 15 rounds with Muhammad Ali. You're beat. So this is nice to be able to do something that kind of looks like prints, kind of looks like printmaking, but you can do it with a mechanical pencil. Thank you, Alex Toth. I will be forever in your debt. He's one of my great heroes in comics. I learned how to read reading Zorro comics from the late 50s when Guy Williams was doing that for Disney. The comics were much better than the Disney TV episodes. Much, much better. For one thing, Alex Toth, you don't get much better than that. He's the only guy who's ever made romance comics interesting. And so this whole thing, I just do it like this. And then I will, when I get finished with this, I've already scanned it. But anything I want to embellish in it, I can do digitally. I do that a lot, like putting those clouds in. I all did that I always do that digitally. It works a little bit better. It's quick, and I need to have anything you can do to ramp up, shorten your production time. You should do, as long as you don't sacrifice quality. And inking takes a long time. Inking is difficult. And I can use a pencil any day of the week. And if you can use a pencil and make it look like ink, go for it. Dang. And I especially like the fact that the tip of the pencil is rigid, so you know where it is. Whereas with a even with a brush pen, it's slightly pliable. One slight boo boo, and it's get out the whiteout. And I've given enough money when I was young to Michael Nesmith's mother. I guess Michael Nesmith has the 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 he gets the residuals from Whiteout now. Peter Torn, he passed away, and Mickey Dole. No, it's not. David E. Jones picked. Hey, I'm the monkey of the Monkees generation. I know. I never watched the Monkees, but we listened to the Monkees. I never watched that much. I never watched the Monkees when I was a kid. I don't know why I didn't. It's my generation. I think my parents wouldn't let me. My parents were very strict about television. We weren't allowed to watch the Beatles on Ed Sullivan. We once we got old enough to get our own stuff and everything, we made up for it. And I'm not crazy about the Beatles anymore. When I was a kid, everything was the Beatles. But you get older, I would hope you grow out of that stuff. So you see, I'm basically using I've gotten where the strokes of the pencil are very much like if you're using a brush pen, except you can erase it. If you mess it up, you can just erase it. You can't do that with the brush pen. And everything I do really, really comes out of Rembrandt. Not that I have any business putting my name in the same sentence with Rembrandt. But I learned how to hatch, cross hatch, and everything like that from him and printmaking because you got to be real careful. I don't think I finished that concept. You have to be real careful with uh, making marks with a needle on a copper plate through asphaltum ground because if you make them too close, the acid will eat through it, and you'll get just a gray mark. You won't get a distinct line. So you have to do it in successive applications of the ground and acid in different states, because each one of those groups of hatched lines has to be on a different depth. And that's how you get that rich, rich, rich black from a group of hatched lines, because they're all at different depths in the plate. And so different amounts of ink go into those depths. And then you get this incredible, really rich black. And then there's the fact that you're using ink. it has a physical presence on the plate, on the paper, the printmaking paper. It actually raises up a tiny bit. It has it has its own aesthetic, the way that oil paint has its own aesthetic. When you look at a reproduction of a great painting, and then you go and see it in a museum, and you realize the paint quality, the way the artist applied the paint, is a part of the painting that can never be reproduced digitally or even in a book or anything like that. You have to actually see the dang thing. You have to see the way that Rembrandt painted with his fingers, uh, especially in his later life. He would paint with his fingers because, like Velázquez in Las Meninas, he had absolutely no fear that he was going to screw it up because he knew how to bring everything back to where his intentions were met. I'm 67 years old. I guess You use ink in your drawings or only pencil? Only pencil. Never use ink. Closest I come to ink is digital in Photoshop, and then I really use a watercolor brush. It's a watercolor brush that's just small enough, using black, and you get just exactly what you would get from a Winsor Newton Zero Sable. Because when you scan this, you everything is going to become gray because the light that's used to illuminate the paper when you scan is going to reveal it to be, gray pencil line. But then you take it into Photoshop and you increase the contrast in levels. And it's probably important. I usually try to, when I'm using the grayscale, using the levels, I try to turn it into a grayscale because you can always after that, I bring it back into CMYK. Because if you mess around with it too much in some of these filters and image manipulators, you get little color halos around things. So it's best just to turn it into a grayscale thing. I was at Pratt. There was all types of people getting into comics. It was I was at Pratt in the late '80s, so I guess in the late '80s, the whole indie comic thing was starting. I suppose the people who were in the comics illustration thing at Pratt, they probably went and made their mark in comics and everything. I knew a guy named was it Scott Cunningham? I think it was Scott Cunningham in undergraduate school. He went to Yale, and then instead of majoring in painting, he got into comics, and I think for a long time he worked with Scooby Doo. That'd be Hanna-Barbera, I guess. The people who did Flintstones and all that other stuff. I don't know what else they did. I have never worked for I've never worked for anybody. I love the fact that in the modern experience we're having right now, I don't see why anybody would want to work for one of the major publishing houses. I don't care who they are. I'd much rather just do a small thing that is completely under my supervision and my control than to have any editor or publisher tell me that I can or cannot do something. And especially, I suppose, at my age and having been out of it so many years, nobody'd want me anyway. So it's kind of a moot question. And I've got one of the weird things I had from my youth is that before I learned how to do gesture drawing, which I didn't learn in high school, our high school teacher never taught us much of anything. I must have learned it from looking at old master drawings. Is that I would draw just contour line drawings, boom, 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 and then I would erase if they didn't work. And that's basically what I do now. I do some slight gesture drawings occasionally, especially for hands. Hands, it's difficult to draw hands unless you construct them using primitive shapes and then do the create the actual drawing of the hand, like I did in that knuckle of that guy on his the knuckles of that guy in the lower right. You have to just, and I start with the knuckles. I just draw the knuckles, and then the hand, where the hand goes around it, pretty easy. And man, Photoshop has really, people at Adobe have really stepped up their game. Years ago, I used to use Painter to do a lot of this stuff. But I think the people at Adobe said, if we don't get our act together, Painter's going to take most of our market. So they've got everything that you can do in Painter now. Yeah, you can do in Photoshop. So I just use Photoshop because it's got everything. You can even do animation, and you used to have to use a third party to do animated GIFs in Photoshop, and now you can do animated GIFs in Photoshop. They probably started that back when I wasn't noticing it. Back in the late 90s, I was doing animated GIFs because I'd gotten in touch with the everyman people again. We lost touch with each other for a long, long time. But once the internet started going on, we all noticed each other and started communicating. And if you want to start making comics, well, first, first get yourself a Wacom tablet. Get yourself a decent scanner. Get yourself a little. I can only tell you what I do. Is I see, I erase that because they don't want that. Did I do that? Did I keep that line going right out of his nose? Oh boy. Let me see if I did. I can move this over, and yeah, I did. I kept get yourself a little sketchbook and start There's two things if you want to do comics. It depends on what you want to do. I write and draw my own comics. I write this book here is based upon a novel I wrote back in the 2000s. That was based upon a little one-page summary that I did many years ago uh, concerning my grandfather's brother, and the story now has absolutely nothing. It's not really connected to that one-page summary, or even the novel. I've changed it lots of different ways, but get yourself a really good story, and then work out from there, and then look at movies. Look at really great movies like Citizen Kane. Uh, Look at some French, Italian movies, French movies. Um, Go to there's a website called Canopy, KANOPY.com, and probably through your local um, library, you can become a member and have all types of foreign movies and look at the way they use movie shots, because comics are basically uh, precursor to movies, and movie shots are real important. And I'm kind of old school. I'm sort of like Silver Age kind of stuff. I don't use some of the wild page designs that you see in like a lot of comics. I'm just, you know, I just simply want to tell the story. I don't want to get dramatic. No worlds are going to explode in my stuff. But a learn how to pace a comic strip, and that's why I like using these little sketchbooks, because you put them in the sketchbook, and you put the opposite pages, and you look and see how the story goes. You want to make sure that what you do on that right hand page leads to the next page, but you don't and it sort of like gives you an idea of what might be on the next page, but you don't want to completely give it away. You want to make sure that um, um, the I always try to make the end of a chapter in on the left hand, and then on the right hand page the chapter starts again. The new chapter starts, which is kind of the natural way of doing things for me. And read great um, read great writers, especially short story writers, because um, most comics are really in the form of like short stories. And notice the way they pace their stuff. A really good guy to read is Richard Stark's Parker novels. Uh, Darwin Cook did a graphic novel version of that back about 10 years ago. And just look at really good writers and start noticing how they write. Uh, and uh, and then one of the problems with writing comics is that it's almost an abbreviation of things you'll see in literature, and it's almost like poetry, where every word has to mean something, because you're not going to be able to get a whole lot in there. And then you should also look at if you're on the drawing thing, I would look at classical um, draftsmen like Rembrandt, Michelangelo, Leonardo. There's a guy on the internet who teaches how you can do that in almost like a method way. It's called Anthony Ryder. And actually, the name of his website is TonyRyder.com. And he basically teaches you how to. I draw all the contours, and then I lay in all the hatching and cross hatching, which is pretty much what he does, though he does it on a like a really subtle, gorgeous, beautiful stuff, which is not really possible in I guess you can do it in in comics, but it would take you forever. It would really take you forever to get it done, unless you're just so quick, it's ridiculous. But learn how to draw contour uh, line drawings, and then create the embellishment using hatching and cross hatching and all that feathering of lines, which is what those little um, uh, those hatching strokes that come off of a line is called feathering. Learn how to do all those things and draw, and draw, and then redraw any page that doesn't come up to snuff, which I've had to do a lot in this comic. Drawings you'll never see. I just look at it and say, "This stinks. I can't show that." And so, and I'm even going to go back and probably redraw some pages after I get everything done. I'm like my web page at blueboybrown.com. It's really a staging area. It's sort of like a first run. It's how I'm going to figure out whether or not things are working. That's one of the advantages of doing the web comic is because it's not the final version. It tells me whether or not I've got it right because I can always take each page and create a flip book or a CBR and just look at it and say, is this working? And I've done that a few times and figured out what was and wasn't working. But if you're young and you're getting started and everything like that, just draw, and I would, and if you, when I was, I don't know how old you are. When I was 20, I was a member of a little group called the Everyman Studios Group in Colorado, and Rick Barry comes out of that. He was one of them, and we just kind of fed off of each other. So it's good to have, especially when you're young, to have other artists that are working, and you're all kind of inspiring each other, which is what we did. We inspired each other to get stuff done. It's difficult to finish things sometimes. Real difficult to get something started and then actually finish it. One of the things that they always uh, wondered how I ever when I started something, I would just finish it. I just wouldn't stop, which is what I've done with this thing. Just don't stop. Because if you produce a few stinker pages, you can always redraw them. Nothing's stopping you from redrawing them. Nothing's stopping revisions. All writing and art is about revising it until you get it right. And as you get older and you have more chops and you have more experience and everything, it'll become a lot easier to figure these things out. For me, at my age, I'm completely sold on independent uh, comics. I don't want to deal with, I'm just a one man show, and I don't have no reason to ever do anything other than that. And I don't know how other people see it. I don't know how a person a lot younger than me would see it. They might want to have uh, distribution in Diamond and be able to walk inside a comic shop and see their stuff in a comic rack. That's a personal decision. I'm too old for that. I think if I went for that, I'd be sorely disappointed. And this way, I get it happens. It's going to be on a small scale, at least I would be stupid if I thought this was going to become, you know, uh, a big deal. That the world would be coming to my feed and I'd be on the New York Times bestseller list. That's a fantasy. If it happens, oh well. I'll be the person. I'll be the most surprised person in the world. I can't imagine such a thing happening. But hey, just to get the stuff out, just to get the stuff out. Few people like it. That's good enough for me. I'm not going to be on this earth that much longer, and so don't get your. I'm not getting my hopes up now. If you're young, and I'm assuming you are, uh, um, take whatever I say and run with it. And what works for you works for you. What doesn't work for you, you got your own way of looking at the world. Now, there are schools that teach this stuff. There are schools that actually teach this stuff. You'll have to pay them some money, but there's the Kubert School up in New Jersey. There are, if you want to go deep in debt or something like that, there are places that'll uh, teach you. And I did a variant cover for All Star Comic. Um, some friends of mine who are Hungarian artists, and uh, one of the people on this does the coloring for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I think there's some kind of Hungarian connection with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or something like that. Hey, my one of my favorite artists of all time, Alex Toth, is Hungarian, so I started hanging out with these Hungarian guys, and one of the guys the guy who did the illustration in this All Star comic, he's Hungarian, and he went to the Kubert School, and he had some outrageous teachers. So it's great to have good, superb teachers, man. I uh, I had some wonderful teachers in college, and they just do a great deal for you. Um, study drama. Study how movies are put together, theater is put together, because what you're doing is theater. What you're doing is a dramatic representation of a story in sequential form. And so I would look at Shakespeare. I would look at Euripides. I would look at Sophocles. I would look at great plays from the Greek era. Notice that, and this is something that I didn't exactly go completely in this, uh, is that in Greeks have a real particular way of presenting their work, which um, modern drama has kind of gotten away with. They never show violence on stage. It's always off stage, and you see the results of the violence, but you don't actually see somebody getting stabbed. Whereas now you kind of see it all the time. But I did that once when my one of my characters got himself lampooned or harpooned. I didn't. I showed it off. Yeah, it occurred off page. Then you saw him later. Got the dang thing sticking out of his back, but you didn't see the actual act. I got that straight out of the Greek tradition of Greek tragedy, and all tragedy is basically interesting. That tragedy shows you how to live by showing you what happens when you don't know how to live. So that's one of the things that you should that's it should really have a um, should take writing courses, drama courses. I was lucky enough to take a drama course from the greatest scholar in the work of Heinrich Ibsen. The greatest scholar in English is a guy named was a guy named Rolf Fielde. He was at Pratt, and I took his course and blew my mind. Blew my mind. Just absolutely, completely changed everything I did as an artist. I really started to understand how to tell a story, how to do things. And one of the nicest people you ever meet. You see, this guy's like world renowned. I used to go to off Broadway productions of his translations of yeah. And right here, I my dadgum camera went off, and I had to. So you get the tail end of this, about the last 15 seconds or 90 seconds or so. And I got to hang out with this guy who you'd go to one of these off Broadway things, and he'd be there, and actors whose names back then were big deal would be coming up to him and paying homage. I got it's really cool to live in New York in the '80s. I don't know if I haven't lived in New York for like close to 30 years, and I don't think I'd want to live in New York now because it's kind of tough stuff then. But now I think you almost have to be a millionaire to live there. Dang. Uh, you just have to have a lot of money to be able to live in New York City, especially Manhattan. Dang. I lived in Brooklyn the whole time because that's where Pratt is. But to live in New York is tough, man. You got to have some money. And I'd rather live where I'm living and have a house and the whole 9 yards. A whole lot easier. And with the internet, you have access to just about everything in the whole world. Just read and you're going to find your own voice. That's all I think. I think everybody should just find their own voice. Oh, that's the end of my vid. Okay, so stop the screen. Stop that, and then share this window. Okay, and there. So I did a little bit of fooling around with it after I got finished with all that. Let me take a real short break, and I'll be back in a second. I'm an old man, and when you're an old man, you understand why I took a break. Okay, I'm back. So now I gotta tackle this. So now looking at what I just did, well, here's page 99. And maybe I'll see, what did I well, let's just go grab some skin tone first to mess with okay. Make sure I do it in the right place. Oh, I've got to create my lightest values. I would also, if I was if you're still on there, Mauricio, if I was a young artist, I would go look at the greats. Alex Raymond, uh, Milt Caniff, those guys knew how to tell a story. So it's real important to know how to tell a story. Real important to pay attention to the masters of your craft. And Milt Caniff, man, he knew how to construct a story. There's a reason why Milt Caniff is revered. They just tremendous. And look at Wally Wood's cheat sheet, which is not really a cheat sheet. What it is, it's a series of shots, movie shots, really, that always can be referred to and always work. And you can look it up on Google. It's called Wally Wood's cheat sheet. And it's not really a cheat sheet. It's really just a glossary of ways to compose a. This is one of them. This is one of them. Always the lower portion of a person's leg over to the side, and a person uh, over here, and it works every time. Every time. I didn't make this up. It's not like I'm the first person who ever did that. It's been done forever. It always works, which is why you do it. You know, it always works. Why shouldn't you do it? It's like it's like the rule of thirds in in composing. And the rule of thirds, let me just kind of open up the rule of thirds. You get a line. I'm doing this real horribly. It's the rule of thirds. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Sweet spot, sweet spot, sweet spot, sweet spot. Place things there. Notice that the anchor in the evening news is right there. The stuff that they're going to talk to you about is right there. These are compositional rules that always work. So you're looking for compositional rules that always work, and also will cut down on your time you have to think about things. I'm doing the same thing. Rule of thirds. Rule of thirds. Rule of thirds. Here, 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 here. It's the rule of thirds. And it's not like I'm thinking about it. It's like these areas just naturally are places where you place something that you that conveys your message, and learn how to use color. Uh, if you look at, let's say, the work of Bruegel, I love to look at Bruegel because Bruegel's a great example of this. If you look at landscape with Plowman and the Fall of Icarus, landscape with Plowman and subtitle The Fall of Icarus, everything is these muted colors, and then there's this one color, red, on the sleeve of the Plowman, It gets all your attention. Guess what? Over there in the lower left-hand corner of the screen of the painting, Icarus is falling into the sea and drowning. What's that tell you? Tells you that if you have a painting full of muted colors, the pure color, that red, will be looked at. You can't ignore red. You can never ignore red. It has to be looked at. And you can manipulate the viewer into looking at what you want them to look at, which is the whole point. And so that's the knowing way to use color. Well, let me see a good example of where I like everywhere. I use this green everywhere. Green is where I want you to look. I want you to look at her. I want you to look at her, and everything else is kind of. And then, of course, and contrast. Contrast will get you to look at things. Contrast, bright colors, muted colors. Now, this is not a perfect example. I'm no Bruegel by any means. But same thing in places where I just want you to. I don't want the the color scheme to scream. Which I don't know if you see that. You see that a lot in comics where the color scheme kind of screams, but I'm not doing mainstream comics, so it's not going to matter. Okay. Okay. That's. Let me see. I've been doing this an hour, 42 minutes. I wish love to be able to go on until 1 o'clock, but the wife's got me doing some stuff today. And if I don't do it, I'm in big trouble. And it's best not to get into big trouble with the wife. So I'm going to probably, since this has to come out on, it has to come out on Monday. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do I'm going to have to just do this probably tonight and tomorrow or something like that. And I will do a video of it here on StreamYard and then just use that video on Monday morning to show how I did this. But you guys who were talking about people want to start making comics, draw all the time, get yourself a little sketchbook that you can take with you all the time, start blocking out stories and stuff like that. Read great novels, read great stories. I would read Flannery O'Connor, Raymond Carver, lots of other. There's lots of other short story artists. Richard uh, Richard Stark, who's really Donald Westlake. People who and read Shakespeare and notice how Shakespeare constructs a story. Learn how to construct a story. There's several different ways to construct a story, but you also at the beginning of a story you have to introduce the characters. It's called exposition, and then learn how to make shots, and then learn how to use positive and negative space, and it takes a while. It takes a while unless you're one of those lucky duckies who has been given an incredible amount of native talent. Then we all have to deal with that. Everybody's got a varying amount of talent. Find your little niche. Find your little niche, the thing that you do the best, and then and then learn how to do these little poses, just how to draw without having to look at a model, which you do from drawing from the model copiously for years. And then you've got these this memory bank. And guess what? It's time for me to go because I'm going to get in trouble if I don't. I have obligations, so I'm going to have to go to now. Now I've got all these viewers and everything. How horrible. Anyway, so I'm going to be back on Monday, and maybe you guys will hang out there on Monday. I'll be back at 10 o'clock on Monday morning, and so hopefully I'll get to see you. And so here I am, David Greg Taylor, Blue Boy Brown. There's the address of Blue Boy Brown. Here's my comics, and you can see how it develops. I'm up to page 99 in the published area. Okay, so thank you for coming, and I hope you all have a great weekend.